In today's episode, I'm checking out RBAC, Entra ID's role-based access control. I'm going to talk about exactly how it works and, most importantly, what it can do for you. This is the definitive guide. Today's video is sponsored by SpecOps. Verify callers and stop hackers while enhancing your service desk security options. Visit them today for more details at specopssoft.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Andy here, so nice to see you, and I really do appreciate you dropping by. On today's episode, I figured I'd take a look at something that I've not looked at for quite some time, and there's been lots of new roles, lots of new features. Now, Entra ID's role-based access control is an essential component in Microsoft's Zero Trust model. This is a model that's guaranteed to, if it's implemented correctly, to keep you and your environment safe. Zero trust, verify everything, and of course, always use the principle of least privilege. And this is where RBAC really comes into its own. So in this session, I'm going to take you through a complete step-by-step guide on exactly what RBAC is, how to configure it, how to set it up. Most importantly, do you need to customize it? I'm going to show you that as well. Finally, I'm going to go through PIM, Privileged Identity Management, and we're also going to talk about administrative units and really how all these components kind of come together. So of course, if you've not subscribed to the channel, we'd love you to come on board. So bump that subscribe button up there, ring that bell, and come and join my learning community. And if you want more, then why not check out my Patreon site. Here you'll find access to full Microsoft courses, monthly Zoom calls, and lots more. Details down below. Okay, so without any further ado, I think it's about time we jump in and check out Entra ID's role-based access control. Enjoy. So when we talk about admin roles, this is a fundamental principle of Zero Trust. So the idea here is that we only give users what they absolutely need, not necessarily the permissions that they want. So again, depending on your different admin position within the organization, again, app developers will use this, also Dynamics, CRM subscribers, and so on. So in the Entra portal, we're going to talk about roles and admins. And in here, you can see that we have a whole list, or you will in a moment, we have a whole list of specific admin roles. Now you'll notice that some of the admin roles have a privileged tag on them. Now, developers especially have to be careful with this, because with application admin roles, if they are privileged, you could potentially grant users essentially admin permissions via a backdoor, which is not good. So this is why you need to get your permissions correct. So in an ideal world, of course, we'd all love to be global admins. So a global admin is essentially a God role. Now, as well as the global admin role, you can also see we have a global reader role. So the global reader role is exactly that. He can see absolutely everything exactly the same as a global admin, but it's read-only. So again, this might be useful for auditing or something like that. But generally, a reader role means that you don't have any write access to anything. So beyond the global reader role, you can see that we have a number of specific functional based admin roles. So for example, an admin who manages Exchange, for example, Microsoft Exchange. And I can come into Exchange and I can see the description. I can also see the actual permissions that this role actually has. As well as that, of course, you might then say, hey, you know, I've got Tom and I've got Peter, and I want to make them or give them access to admin role privileges. Can I do that? Of course, yes, you can. So you can assign permissions or privileges in a number of places. You can assign them privileges in the Entra portal, as well as in the Microsoft 365 portal. So when I create a new user, so if I scroll down here and I open up, let's say, Luke Skywalker here, I'll go into Luke's account, and if I go into his permissions here, so you can see, it gives me the details of the account. I can see the admin roles, and at the moment he doesn't have any admin access. So I can click into the roles here, and I can say, yes, I want to assign Luke some admin permissions here. So I can go in, I can say what type of permission do I want to give him. So Luke's pretty good at SharePoint. So I've decided I'm going to make him a SharePoint and a Teams administrator. So he can manage all aspects of SharePoint Online and Microsoft Teams, which is great because that's his role. And I'll just go and save changes there. What I can now do is I can now come back into the admin roles in Entra. So here's my SharePoint administrator. And if I click into active assignments, sure enough, you can see that Luke is an active assignment. Now it also tells me that he's a user. He's got full directory access. So in other words, he can manage SharePoint right throughout the entire organization. He's been directly assigned through membership. That means it's been done directly in the portal. He's assigned, and also you can see that there's no time restrictions on the account. So if I come down to another role, let's say, for example, here we have the user admin role. Okay, now I can come in here, and the first thing it'll show me is that at the moment there's no assignments on this. So if there's any eligible, active, or expired assignments, I can go into the description of this admin role, and it shows me that these are, again, all the permissions associated with that role. So in other words, it's a really powerful admin role. It can pretty much do anything except create global admins. And you can see it's a privileged account or privileged role. One of the first things that you might want to do is you might want to go, before you start assigning, you might want to go into the role settings. So the role settings can be edited, and I'm just going to go in and edit them. And it talks about activation. So there's two ways to assign an admin role. You can either assign it directly, or it can be assigned through the membership of a group. But also, you can have both permanent and temporary access to a role. So for example, if you were going on vacation and you've got an assistant that you want to take over your role, you get the idea. And the analogy is just like, imagine your next door neighbor. Your next door neighbor is going on vacation and they say, would you mind watering my plants? Here are the keys. So they've given you the keys to their house. So in other words, they've given you the right to enter their home and water their plants. Now, within that 2 weeks that they're away, you might determine that there's no need to do that. So you've got the rights, but you don't necessarily use them. This is what we call eligibility. Okay, so you're eligible to do that task. Now, whether you do it or not is another thing. So with that eligibility, you can say, okay, I am going to allow my users 12 hours of access. It's going to require multi-factor authentication, and it's also going to require a justification. So when I open up the admin portal as your assistant, it's going to say, you know, why are you using the tool today? You need to put in a reason, and this is then audited. Now, if you're using tools like ServiceNow or ticketing systems like Ticket, again, you can add that. Does it require approval? And if so, who is the approver? Again, you don't have to have that. So then next is assignment. Okay, so how long do you want to assign access to the role for? Allow permanent eligible assignment. So, or permanent assignment. So permanent assignment is done when you add that user into their user account, like you just saw. But in this case, eligible assignment, you don't want it to be permanent. So you can choose how long you want that assignment to be for. So for example, if it's a contractor or something like that, you might want to make them 3 months, every 3 months or something like that. So in this example, I'm just doing 15 days because that's our holidays. And I'm going to say, yep, requires multi-factor authentication. And when the user activates the account, do you want to send an alert or an email? So yes, it's going to do all of that. By the way, this assignment process, this feature, is referred to as PIM, or Privileged Identity Management. And this is a P2 feature, by the way. So I'm just going to update those settings. Okay, so that's the first thing that we do. We understand what the permissions are, but we also understand what the settings are. Now, if I flip over here to my Azure portal, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back to my home page. And what I've done is I've created a resource group. So my resource group here is called Sterling HQ. And Sterling HQ is a bubble. Yes, it's a bubble within my organization. And within my organization, you can see I've added in a number of resources. So I've added in a virtual network. I've added in a disk, a network interface card, a security group, an IP address, and so on. Now, it's just like folder and file permissions. So I can come in and you'll notice that at every level, we have identity and access control management. So I can click in here and first of all, I can view my access. I can check what my access is, but I can also add a role assignment to this resource as well. Okay, so just like Microsoft 365, I can add in those admin roles. So if I go into the admin roles here, you can see these are the admin roles that are currently used on this resource group. And if I click onto roles, you can see that we have a whole bunch, again, of roles. Some of these are user focused, so contributor and reader and owner. These are user focused, but some of them are operationally focused as well. So for example, if you're a developer managing the APIs on a platform, adding a virtual machine in and so on. I can also set deny assignments. So deny assignments override, if there's anybody been denied, it will put them at the top of the list. So it doesn't need to go any further. Classic admins is old stuff. You don't need to worry about that. So if I go into roles and if I scroll down here, you can see that, hey, some of these are service-based. Okay, some of these are service-based. But if I scroll up and say, hey, I want to add in, let's say, a contributor. Again, I can select the contributor and I can add in a job function role or a privileged admin role. You see the two types? So a job function role is operational and the privileged admin is for privileged access. So with that in mind, if I come back to Sterling HQ and I'm going to go into my resource group, and let's say I'm going to go into my virtual machine, STGO1. So I'm going to come into here. And at the moment, this virtual machine is running, as you can see. And I can then say, hey, I want to connect to it. So I can either connect by just a regular user, or I can connect via a Bastion service, which is like a firewall service. Definitely do that, by the way. But again, because I'm in this resource, again, you'll notice that we have a number of menus. So connections, we've got menus. We've also got availability, of course, the size, and you've got security, and you've got identity as well. So I can click into the identity portal here. And again, I can then see, are there any system assigned accounts or any kind of user assigned accounts? So again, I can add a user or a resource here with access as well. So again, because it's a virtual machine, we also have identity and access management. Again, we also have any kind of role assignments, and we also have those admin roles. Now, because this is a virtual machine, if I just scroll that over and scroll right down, so connected virtual machine, so connected machine, resource manager, who's allowed to onboard services, who's allowed to administer the resources on this machine, and so on. Yes, if you're using SAP or any kind of admin function with this. Okay. Now, of course, I can also add a role. I can add a role assignment here. And it says, okay, what role assignment do you want to add? So again, there's literally tons of different permissions that you can add. So for example, if you're logging into this machine through the Windows Admin Center, for example, or through virtual machine user login. So I want to give a user the right to log in. I can add this in, or a contributor. So do I want to allow an admin login to this machine? So again, I can assign that as well. Likewise, it shows you any members. So who are the members here? The user in groups. Again, I can add members to this group as well. So along with that, if I flip back then into my permissions here, I was mentioning PIM, or Privileged Identity Management. So in Microsoft 365 or in Entra ID, I can again add an assignment. So in this example, I'm going to add a member, and I'm going to say, in my organization, Alex is responsible for the user admin role. So Alex is responsible, and I'm going to say he's permanently. Now, if I click on that, I'll just say it's for his job. Okay. This is exactly the same as me assigning him when I created the user account. Go into the roles there on the user tab. So if I assign him here, that's a permanent assignment. Okay. So you can see he's got access to the full directory, direct access, he's assigned, and there's no temporary assignment. It's permanent. Okay. So what if Alex has got an assistant? So this is where PIM comes in. So if I go into eligible assignments now and assign, let's say, do an assignment, I'm going to add a member, but this time Adele is his partner, his administrator. So I'm going to say next, but this time I only want Adele to be eligible. And you can see it's picked up the 15 days, the limit that we set up earlier. Now you can change this, of course, but typically I'm now going to assign her. Now at this point, Adele doesn't turn up. You can see she's not active, but she is eligible. So she's got the keys, but she's just decided not to use them yet. But again, she's still got access to the directory, but here you can see that that temporary assignment has now come in. So the next thing, we can take this another level. To do this to another level, we can create something called an admin unit. So an admin unit is really useful, not to be confused with an Active Directory organizational unit, although it does share some similarities, but you can't do group policy and things like that, at least not yet. So I'm going to click on add, and we're going to call this is my, let's just call this my Oslo office. Okay. So this is my Oslo office. Again, I can put in a description. Just put in a description here. Now, you can set up something called Restricted Management Admin Unit. I'll come back to this in a second. But needless to say, if you click onto this, it's an irreversible action. Okay, so you can't change it. So next, I'm going to say, next, assign admin roles associated with this admin unit. So again, I could bring in the user admin. Okay, and I'm going to say this time, I'm going to say that I'm going to say Alan is the administrator in Oslo. So I'm going to go into my Oslo office, and now in here you say, first of all, which users is Alan going to be responsible for? Well, I'm going to put in some users here. We've got the users in. Again, I could add groups as well, and I can also create groups. I can add devices. Yes, I can bring in devices. You get the idea. So next, I go into roles and admin, and we go back in again to the user admin role. And look, now we can see that Alan is also a permanent administrator here. But the difference this time is he's only got access to the Oslo office. So the scope, so an admin role or an admin unit, by the way, is a scope of administration. Very cool feature. And then the final thing that I want to show you, so that's 3 different levels. So we've looked at permanent, eligible, and the concept of an admin unit. So in here, remember I mentioned the requests. So Adele is requesting access to do her job. You need an approver. This is where it would come in. So any requests pending approval would be here. You would need to then approve them. You can assign these admin roles to both users and also groups as well. So a common question is, Andy, can I customize these admin roles? And the answer is absolutely you can. Okay, so do you have to go with the roles that are here? Absolutely not. No. Although I have to say, don't overcomplicate things. So you can easily go up here and you can create a new custom role here. So for example, I can call this my Oslo management. And again, you've got the option. Do you want to just start from scratch, or do you want to create a clone from a previous template that you've created already? So read all properties. So including privileged permissions, update properties of application policies, create application policies, delete. Okay, so I could say, what else? I could say, yeah, all properties. I'm just clicking on a few options here. So again, I click next, and you can now see that I've now created my Oslo managers. And any roles that you create will appear at the top of the list here, by the way. So that's how you create your own admin roles. But as I said, be very careful with these because you could end up doing a lot of damage with them. So there you have it, Entra ID's role-based access control. What an awesome feature, and it's a critical skill that administrators simply have to know. Hey, listen, I really hope you enjoyed today's session. If you've got any questions or comments, as always, get those down below and I'll do my best for you. Okay, that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Thanks.